ABBA. You hear the name and you immediately think of pop perfection, right? These incredibly crafted harmonies, melodies so catchy they just live in your head forever. A sound so clean, so polished. But what if I told you that behind that shimmering surface was a story of pure chaos, of heartbreak, and a relentless, almost obsessive drive that rewrote the rules for what a pop group could be? So how did a band obsessed with perfection manage to thrive in total pandemonium? And what was the real story hiding behind those sparkling harmonies? Well, let's get into it. To really get this, you have to picture it. The year is 1977. ABBA is, without a doubt, the biggest band in the world, and they're on this massive, legendary tour of Australia. But the pressure on them was just immense. I mean, the whole world was watching, wondering if they could actually replicate those flawless studio recordings live on stage. And a lot of people were pretty skeptical. Yeah, this quote right here, it pretty much nails the vibe at the time. This was a super common take from critics. Could this band, famous for their studio wizardry, really pull it off live? Or was that perfection just some kind of illusion, something they could only create in the studio? And then, this. The answer was a huge, resounding yes. It sent a shockwave through the music world. Critics who showed up ready to mock them left completely stunned. I love this one writer who called himself an ardent ABBA basher from way back, who was totally won over. But here's the thing. That perfect sound the audience was hearing, it was hiding a much, much messier reality. Because while the audience was hearing sonic perfection, the band itself was fighting a battle against utter chaos. And it all started with their very first concert in Sydney, which was, to put it mildly, a total trial by fire. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. A massive downpour soaks the entire stage. Frida takes this nasty slip and falls right on her backside. Then, during a costume change, her wig goes flying off. And as if that's not enough, when the rain finally stops, a giant swarm of bugs descends on the hot stage lights. They even had to cut a song from the set. It was an absolute disaster. So how in the world did they still sound so perfect? That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? The question that baffled everyone and really cemented the ABBA legend. In the middle of all that mayhem, how did they pull off a show so good that people were comparing it to seeing the Beatles? The answer wasn't luck, and it wasn't some pre-recorded trick. It was the result of an almost obsessive level of preparation and a revolutionary way of thinking about sound. They left absolutely nothing to chance. This is the secret sauce right here. Get this, they spent an entire year just planning the tour. Then they spent 6 straight months in rehearsals. They worked with their genius engineer, Michael Tretow, to pioneer all these new techniques. They built a sound system so powerful and so precise that critics literally called it a wall of sound. This was just pure, relentless dedication. But that kind of drive for perfection, it always comes at a human cost. Because the true genius of ABBA wasn't just the technical stuff. It was the deep and often heartbreaking emotion that was hiding just underneath the surface of all those happy, upbeat pop songs. You gotta remember, this band was famously made up of 2 married couples. The insane pressure of being the biggest band in the world took a devastating personal toll. Agnetha developed these crippling phobias, flying, crowds, to the point where she often had to travel separately from everyone else. And eventually, the pressure cooker of fame led to 2 very public, very painful divorces. But that pain, it became the raw material for their most powerful, most timeless music. I'm talking about songs like The Winner Takes It All, where Björn, in a move some called cruel, literally had his recent ex-wife Agnetha sing the lyrics he wrote about their own separation. And this right here is the key to everything. This is why their music lasts. It captures the complicated truth of real life. A song like The Winner Takes It All isn't just a sad song. It's this incredibly bittersweet mix of defeat and dignity, of love and loss. It's that raw emotional honesty, all wrapped up in a perfect pop package that just connects so deeply with millions of us. But that connection, it didn't just stop when the band did. In fact, you could make a strong case that ABBA's second life was even bigger than their first. The band stopped touring, but the music, it didn't just survive, it started to multiply, to spread out across all these different forms of media in a really fascinating way. I mean, how does that happen? How does their story keep getting told to new generations decades after they've left the stage for good? For ABBA, The answer is this really cool concept from the world of media studies. Okay, so it's called transmedia storytelling. It sounds a little academic, I know, but stick with me, because the idea is simple. It's about telling a story across a bunch of different platforms, where each new platform adds something fresh to the experience. Think about how the Star Wars universe isn't just movies, but also TV shows and video games and books. Well, for ABBA, their music and their story became the foundation for a whole new universe of entertainment. So, first, in the 90s, you get these incredible films like Muriel's Wedding that used ABBA's music to tell these powerful stories about being an outsider. It made ABBA cool all over again. Then, of course, came the musical Mamma Mia, which built an entire story around their songs and became this global blockbuster. Each one of these steps brought ABBA to a brand new audience, keeping the story alive and kicking. And all of that has led to their most ambitious, most mind-blowing chapter yet. This, right here, is the culmination of their entire story. It's this revolutionary digital concert in London that finally, perfectly solves that original paradox from 1977. How do you deliver that flawless studio perfection in a live setting without any compromises? The reactions from people who've seen it are just out of this world. People go in thinking it's going to be some kind of gimmick, but what they experience feels astonishingly real. This is not some grainy video projection. It is something else entirely. And that's the real magic of it. The show connects on this incredibly deep emotional level, and not just with die-hard fans. This person here says they're not even a huge ABBA fan and they were moved to tears. It taps into that core of joy and sadness we were talking about, but in this completely immersive, futuristic way. So how does the tech actually work? All right, first things first, let's clear this up because almost everyone gets this wrong. These are not holograms. A hologram is basically a projection of light into space, and it usually looks kind of transparent and ghostly. The avatars, on the other hand, are unbelievably detailed CGI creations that are displayed on a gigantic, super high-resolution screen. The band themselves spent months in motion capture suits to create them. The effect is that they look totally solid, like they are physically on that stage right in front of you. And the illusion is so powerful that for most of the show, you completely forget you're watching digital avatars. You just get swept up in the music, the lights, the performance. For all intents and purposes, you are at a live ABBA concert, watching them in their absolute prime. And really, ABBA Voyage is the final answer. It's the solution to that impossible problem they faced back in 1977. It takes their original, flawless studio vocals, combines them with a fantastic live band, and presents it with a perfect, visually stunning performance that can be repeated night after night. No slipping on a wet stage, no wigs flying off, no bug attacks, just perfection. Which leaves us with this one last fascinating question to chew on. By removing that unpredictable, chaotic, messy human element and creating a perfect digital version of themselves, have Agnetha, Björn, Benny, and Ani Frid not only solved their greatest artistic challenge, but have they also found a way for ABBA to truly live forever? It really makes you wonder what the future of live entertainment is going to look like.